Okay, so I've heard that it actually helps if you plug in your camera. So let's see if that works better now. Well, here we go. Can we? Yeah, I think that might actually work. Should we do like this? Cool. So, Alana, Elena, what do you prefer? I don't know. Well, we are keeping up work on the 2 blink dogs that I got for Flane and her friend's party. I'm also trying to adjust my lamp just a little bit so you might actually be able to see my face. Can I do anything? Probably can. Hang on. I'm a little unprepared for this because I'd actually planned on streaming games on Sundays, but I find that it is far more fun for me to chat while painting miniatures. So I think I'll leave the gaming to other people who are also far better at it than I am. So anyway, what we're up to today is blink dogs. We have this one here. Let me do so. And I actually lost focus, which is annoying. So yeah. Oh, hello Emily. So yeah, so we have these 2 blink dogs, and I also have 2 handles. So I can just attach one of them. So 1 to each. But no, actually I figured I would try to give this another go, since I'll be meeting up with my role players tomorrow, and I would like to just give it to them. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this one here, Emily, that's a really cool model, and I still haven't decided what to do about the transparent part. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of control of the camera here. This will not do. Yeah, I'm thinking that exactly, Elena. Just a little bit of wishy-washy. Come on, zoom, focus. There we go. I think this is probably gonna be about as good as it gets. So yeah, I was thinking a little bit of wishy-washy on it. Some kind of, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe blue, orange, something like that. Might also be an idea to go for some of the contrast colors from Citadel. Maybe doing the yellow. Maybe tone it down a little bit so you sharpened up, darken it a little bit, giving it some actual orange in the deep recesses, and then going for yellow on the highlights, kind of. The idea behind that would be that the contrast colors are actually fairly transparent or translucent, but I'm also leaning a little bit towards doing some blue. Because I don't know, I just like the sort of vibrant bluish color. I'm going to take a reference model here. This is the Spellweaver from Gloomhaven. If you look at the base, or the blue flames, I was thinking that some effect along the lines of this, but just making it completely transparent, would be really cool. Or if I'm feeling very adventurous, I would do something like what I have on the base here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually slightly bubbly, or sort of wavy here. It's an effects paint meant for doing water, doing ocean effects on large-scale scenery, or large scale compared to these miniature bases. It's fairly large scale to do dioramas and things like that. But I really don't know how it's going to be on the translucent or the transparent, the see-through part of this one, because you can see the white of the base in some of the areas, but it really quickly gets fairly dark. And also the paint itself, the scenery effect, water effect, is a little bit thick, so I'm not entirely sure if I can use a brush to put it on or if I may need to water it down. And to be honest, I'm a little intimidated by this miniature, because I know that if I mess it up, I either need to strip the entire miniature completely or just live with a bad paint job. So I'm a little bit at a loss about what to do. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Do not hesitate. For now though, I think what I'm going to do is just give these a quick dry brush to lighten them up a little bit, and then after that I'm gonna touch up some highlights and make them a little bit more, make the details stand out a little bit further. Then I also need to do something about the face itself, but in the way they're built, and I'm a little confused about the face here, because on this guy here, to illustrate what I'm confused about here is, see, we have his mouth here obviously, then we have something that looks a little bit like eye sockets here, but we also have some eyes up here. But I think these ones are on the top of its head, so that's kind of, yeah, no, I think we can see it clearer here. This here seems to be the eye, which means that over on this side it's got to be, yeah, it's got to be in this one here that's already really dark, but does not actually seem to have an eye pip, or the eyeball itself. Oh yeah, the holders, I mean, I would like them to be a little bit heavier. I guess you could just drill into it and put some metal in somehow to make it heavier. But I like actually holding it, because it means I don't have to, sit here and wiggle the model around and then drop it and all those things. So the handles are quite nice. There are probably other brands than Citadel that are either better or worse. I wouldn't know. I just use these, kind of like them. Over here they cost 50 Danish kroners, which is about $8 US. So it's money, but it's not too bad. So, but anyway, to begin with, we need to find out which brown I actually want to use for doing some highlights and dry brushing. I think I used the Parasite brown from Vallejo, however you pronounce it. So I'm gonna do that again, and then for dry brush. Oh, I need to test my new dry brushes. Hang on. Cool. So what we have here are from the local cheap store. Danish people, is from the store called Normal. And we're talking about, we've got a couple of makeup brushes, because people keep telling me that makeup brushes are some of the best you can use for highlights, dry brushing, far better, far cheaper than the ones you buy in proper craft stores or miniature painting stores, hobby stores, whatever. So let's see what we have here. We have something that actually looks like it's going to give a lot of surface for dry brushing. It's fairly stiff but flexible, which is a lot nicer than the dry brush I have here. This is the only designated dry brush, and it's been, yeah, I've not been too kind to this one here. It's more or less dead. But I mean, for dry brushing, yeah, it's gonna be fine. But I'm actually just gonna try out the makeup brushes, see how it goes. And I think, you know, the other one I have here, I think that's way too large for these ones. I mean, it would take 2 strokes, you cover the entire miniature and probably hit the recesses. I also got one of these ones, which is called a smudge brush, and I figured that would be good, not for dry brushing, but if you want to, like a small sponge, do some effects with that at some point. Anyhow, let's get right to it. You should hear some wonderful music in the background. Please let me know if it's not playing. It's again like last week. It's Adrian von Ziegler, who's a German musician, who actually lets you use his music for free, as long as you give him credit, which I hopefully have both in the description and, well, right now. So let's see what we're doing here. What do we get? One of the things I hate about doing highlight for dry brushing is that you need to go fairly subtle on it to get the effect without, you know, filling in all the recesses. But at the same time, for me personally, I have a hard time actually seeing if I've done anything. I mean, if you look down at the base here at the bottom, the white part, you can actually see it gives off a little bit of coloring, not a lot, but some, and I think it's getting something on the model as well. That's just me not being good at dry brushing in general. I'm not sure if it's any big help that I'm actually using a large makeup brush then, but I think it's nice. It's doing something to the miniature, so it's probably okay. So now, regarding role-playing games, if you watched, you know, a couple of the last streams I've done miniature painting, you know that I love to just ramble about what I've seen, what I've done, some of the mistakes I've made in the past 30 plus years that I've been calling myself a role player. So I figured I'd just continue doing that. I think it's fun, and it's nice to hear what, you know, people's response on all of this is. I mean, it's been, as I said, more than 30 years. Something's bound to have rubbed off on me, and I've learned a couple of things along the way about how to handle different situations, both in game and also sometimes out of games. What I wanted to talk about a little bit to begin with here today is scheduling role-playing games. Some people will do first weekend of every month, or second Wednesday, or every Wednesday, whatever. Have, you know, just a tight schedule and keep to that. One of the groups I currently play in, we play every other Tuesday, which is also ironically what I named the campaign, just to make it simple. And that works fine. So we basically just have a standing agreement that unless you hear anything, we're playing on every second Tuesday. That's fine. In other groups, we've in the past, it's actually with the same people, but in the past we've gone to great length to try and find, you know, who can on this date. Okay, so you can't because you have the kids, or you have that thing, or you're on vacation, or whatever. So it's actually more or less my conclusion that if you are more than 0 adults, there's always going to be at least one who can't make it on any given day. So what we're doing instead, see you, AJ. So what we're doing instead, at some point I switched to doing, was to simply go to accept the conclusion that we couldn't really find a date that was suitable for all of us anyway. So why wouldn't we just let the game master decide where we play and when? Because the game master is sort of kind of the only person you can't really do without in a game group. I mean, you can have other people stand in as a game master, but then you'll be playing, different setting, different campaign, and so on. So if you don't want to do that, well, then you kind of need the game master. Yes. Oh, hello, Modifian. You are handsome as well. So what we learned from this then was that just letting the game master choose where and when was actually a really, really good idea, because the result was that when you just throw out a date and say we're playing on Saturday the 17th, it was yesterday, we actually realized that people were far more interested in showing up, because they knew that if they didn't show up, they would miss a game session. They didn't have the choice of asking to have it moved or saying that, oh, this is not good for me. So they just showed up instead. I just need some more stuff. And that was, to me at the time, was to begin with a little bit surprising, until we started talking about it and talking about why is it that we're doing these things. And I thought it over in my head, and I came to the conclusion that maybe it does make sense, because you will lose a game session if you don't show up. You just don't have a choice. And I mean, it's not like we were doing twice a week or even once a week. It was 2, maybe 3 times per month, but usually 2. So it wasn't a hard thing. It wasn't a lot of time we spent on this. What do I need? I need white. I need some white. Because now I've done the first layer of dry brushing, so I'm going to try just thinning down the paint, not thinning down, lightening the paint just a little bit, so we can do more highlights. But anyway, this is the scheduling thing. So just figured that it actually worked, and I think for the past, it's been almost 15 years or so, we're actually doing it like that, and it helps quite a lot with the planning, especially for the game master, because the game master can just say when we play, and that's it. So also I have made a slight mess over here. As you can see, I tried lightening the brown a little bit, but obviously got way too much white in it. So let's try that again. That's why you can't see my hands at the moment. They're busy playing with paint over on my wet palette. So let's see if we can do it a little bit better. So yeah, so scheduling is basically what we've done. From there on, we've done it like so. I mean, just letting the game master decide, and then people actually are far more prone to show up, which was an interesting thing to learn. Now lately though, we've had some, I don't know if you want to say conflicts, but at least we've had some situations in one of the groups where people are not very good at letting the game master know if they're coming or not. And part of this, I think, is that we're using a website called Obsidian Portal, which I highly recommend for all your campaign work. It's a bit like some of the other ones, like it's called World Forge or something like that, where you can keep all the information about the group, about the characters, about the different places in your setting. There's a small wiki, there's some forums, there's part of the wiki is aimed at having the characters on it. You can do hyperlinks, the usual stuff that we're used to from these sites. But I like it because it's simple, and because it was one of the first ones there that actually took off quite nicely. I think I joined in, I know it's more than 10 years ago, but I think it was 15, maybe 16 years ago by now. And yes, it does suffer from that, because it's not entirely up to speed with all the new the modern technologies and features that you have elsewhere. I think we have a color that might work quite nicely. It's still a little, it's going to go on a little heavy. Let's give it a quick run over. No, but part of the Obsidian portal thing is that you have a calendar system. So the game master just plots in when we're playing, saying, oh, we're playing on this date, make an event, and then in the event description you can talk a little, mention what we're doing, blah blah blah. You can throw in a few lines, whatever. But what we found here is that a lot of people don't actually read the invitation, and a lot of people are not very good at just clicking the I'm going or I'm not going button. So how do you solve that? I mean, for the game master, it's really nice to know if people are showing up or not, because if you're sitting around 3 days before for your game night, you're preparing some stuff, you're looking into who's going to come, which characters do I need to activate, are there anyone who has special, not special needs, it sounds completely wrong, but do I need to take anything into account? Are there plot lines for this or that character that needs to be explored a little bit further, and the usual stuff like that. Game masters will know what I'm talking about. The rest of you, this is all the magic stuff that lets you have a lot of fun. But sitting there 3 days before game night and no one signed up, and what's the conclusion? I mean, do you call around to everyone saying, oh hey, I've noticed that you haven't let me know if you're coming or not, can you just please do it, or just tell me now, just hey, how's it going, are you even still alive? Or what do you do in those situations? And how graceful are you about it? Are you just being casual and saying, oh well, people are probably busy, we'll expect that we're playing, but just take it nice and quietly, do something for the few people who have said they're showing up? Or, as we've seen recently in my group, do you go into a whole kind of, oh well, if people are not signing up, then I'm not playing at all, let's disband the entire group? That's a little excessive, I know that, shaking paint, but at the same time I get the frustration from our game master. That would be not me, to clarify that, but at the same time I get where he's coming from, because this has happened a lot, and he's the kind of game master who actually does a lot of planning. I'm more sort of flying by the seats of my pants. I improvise a lot when I'm game mastering. That's how I like it. Also, with the players I usually have, you cannot really plan anything big for them. That's going to be impossible. Welcome back, AJ. But yeah, he just basically went into okay, so only 2 people have signed up, other than the game master himself, so we're not playing. And lo and behold, the day before or something, one of the players called him and said, oh, I was just looking in Obsidian Portal and I couldn't find the event. I mean, where are we playing tomorrow? So people didn't see his very long message in there about we are not playing, we may not even be continuing the group. And then the day before, when they tried to go, oh, so where we're playing, expecting there to still be a game, they got surprised, and they didn't even check for messages, they didn't check their mailbox to see if anything had shown up, they just called the game master. So where am I going with all of this? Well, I'm going to the point where, my point is that you need to communicate with people about expectations about these things. And that goes both for players and for game masters. If you know as a game master that you'll be doing all of this through Obsidian Portal, which I think is a great way of doing it, why am I only dry brushing one of them at a time? That's going to be a little bit tricky hitting the same colors in the other one. That's just me being silly. No, but I mean, if you plan on, as a game master, going through making all of it in something like Obsidian Portal, make sure your players know and understand this, because then they know the consequences of not using it. And as a player, oh shit, messed that one up. No, who cares? But as a player, you also actually need to say actively to your game master, if the tools you're using, if they don't work for you, you should be open about it. You should not just say nothing and then expect people to work around these solutions for your sake, because we're not mind readers. None of us are. However much people may have expected it from us in the past, bosses, parents, and so on. It's about communication. It's about talking. These people are usually supposed to be your friends, and if you can't tell your friends something like, well, using this, that really messed it up. Using this Obsidian portal tool and having to, click a link in an email to say that I'm coming or not coming, that nope, doesn't work for me. We can't do this. Fine, then you can discuss it as a group. But if no one says it, and if the game master, for instance, is not too open about how, shall we say, aggressively they use this tool, then the players don't know what's expected of them, and then you have this kind of deadlock where part of the group is going in one direction, the other part is going in the other, and that is bound to lead to conflicts, not over which tool is better or not, but simply over people not communicating, and that's so sad to see. So yeah, so what are exactly communication? And that is the main point of this entire rant, is communication is important, people. So the open question to you then is, how do you coordinate and plan your, it could be both game nights or role playing and all that. I focus a little bit on role playing on this because role playing needs a little bit more momentum for me at least. So that's why I really want to play for at least twice per month to make it worth anyone's time. Otherwise you're going to lose momentum. If you play an entire weekend, yeah, I'm sure that will definitely work only once per month, but less frequent than that. I need to be careful with this. But less frequent than that, I would say that you lose momentum. You can't remember what happened last time. You leave this sort of state of mind where you are your character, or that's the way I work as a game master, is that I try to sort of become the world, however pretentious that might sound. So whenever anything happens or the players do anything, then I try to imagine that I am the entire world and then respond to it. But that means that I kind of sort of always need to have the world running sort of on standby in my head, also in between game sessions, which is, takes some energy, to be honest. So yeah, crazy schedule. Tri-line schedule, we have 2 nudges. I know. So I mean that makes sense because you have differing schedules and work hours and all that. But for us, sad, poor office workers, we don't have night shift. We don't have all these things. I mean, we should be able to just go. Sure, we're playing every second, like the other group I mentioned. We're playing every other Tuesday, and with 2 exceptions, we've actually kept to that for about 4 months now. And one session got cancelled because one of the players works in a place where one of his close co-workers might have been corona infected. That's something you need to take carefully in these days. So until he got tested to see if he was positive or negative, then it wouldn't be prudent to actually meet up with him. One of the other players in his group was his girlfriend, and they lived together. So yeah, that was also a no-go for her. And 3rd out of the 4 players had actually been with the 2 others for just casual game night a few days before he found out that his co-worker was might be infected. No, he was positive. But anyway, that doesn't matter. So that basically meant that we had 3 people, 1 person very much in the danger area of being infected, and his girlfriend, who was basically, she would be infected if he was infected, and then the 3rd person who had actually spent time with these 2 people a few days before. So not a lot of things to do there except just cancelling it. And then me and the 4th player just did something fun instead and just hung out. Actually, we played Elder Scrolls Online. He's been playing for years. We got some really cool tips from him. Got a lot of gold, so I'm rich. But anyway, the other time we had to cancel was simply because I was ill. So that's just simple. Not Corona though. Just plain old. I'm sick. So nothing there. But yeah. So scheduling. So going back to that. Kind of lost my train of thought. Who cares? I also need to find a dry brush. Something else to dry brush with. Where do I put it? Put it here. So yeah. So what I prefer is to actually know in advance that you're playing every 2 or 3 weeks, because that way you can actually just plan ahead. If you play even weeks, odd weeks, I've never been good with week numbers, so that doesn't really mean anything to me saying even weeks. But it's something you can look up, and you know on any specific weekend or whichever day you play, oh, that's the role-playing game day. You can put it in your calendar far ahead, not just one appointment at a time. And as I started out with this entire rant, back some 15 or so years ago, we decided to stop trying to coordinate calendars and basically just go, the game master decides, and anyone who can play can show up. And if enough show up, then we're gonna play. If too few people show up, we're gonna do something else. But still, letting people know that you're going is key to actually succeeding with any of this. I mean, it's a bit like if you invite people over for the barbecue and go, hey, ho. This is an example I have from a friend. We talked about it yesterday. And you go, oh, sure. You want to come over? Barbecue my place next weekend? And people go, quiet, crickets. Don't mention anything. Until the morning of the day or whatever, they go, oh, so is this thing still on? And at that point, the host will probably already have bought the stuff needed for the barbecue, the beer, wine, soda, whatever you want to have. And then go, but I hadn't heard from you. I thought you weren't going. And again, communication is key to making this work. So yeah, that was a small rant about that. It was about half an hour or so about this. So, but anyway, it's a thing, and that's when you try to do these things as an adult, I guess that would be the part of it. Then you need to coordinate these things. You need to be grown up about it. You need to plan. You need to all the boring stuff that our parents used to do when we were young. But it's important, and it actually makes it so much more enjoyable for everyone, especially whoever's coordinating it. It may not be the game master. It may be the game master, who cares? But just help out each other. Have some patience, but also if you're game master or whoever does the coordinating parts, say, let's use this tool because it works for me. Then at least put in the effort of trying to learn it and trying to actually actively using it. It's some of the best campaigns I've been in have been very active on things like Obsidian Portal, or can be an email thread for in-between game stuff, so the group never really dies out. I mean, and especially if you're only playing once per month, for instance, having an active mail thread or discussion on some forums, that's really, really important to keep the momentum going, to keep the group from slowly dying out, especially because you're playing once per month. Let's say that one of your game nights get cancelled. Then all of a sudden it'll be a 2-month break in between game sessions. That can often almost feel like you're starting up an entirely new group. So yeah, how's this coming along? I mean, as I said earlier, I don't often see a lot about what actually, when dry brushing areas like this, I don't often actually notice when I'm doing it that it puts the color on the model. But looking at it now a little bit from a distance, I can see that it actually has sort of at least given some highlights. It's not that aggressive. I'm trying to hold it out at an arm, roughly an arm's length. I can see the large areas being outlined, but not the really heavy highlighting that some people do. But it's work in progress. The reason I'm messing around so much with highlights at the moment and not being very good at it is simply because when I learned to paint back in the early 90s, the way I learned it was to buy some paints and buy some miniatures and some brushes and then painting. I looked a little bit in magazines like White Dwarf, and there were some articles about painting, but not a lot. Back then there was no video tutorials on YouTube. There was no YouTube obviously. So maybe I talked a little bit with friends about it, but I didn't have that many people, or know that many people who actually painted at the time. I probably need to messed up that side. I should probably quickly clean that a little bit. So no, I didn't really know many people who so I just learned by doing, and that is rather difficult. Things like thinning your paints. I did not know about that concept until really late, until about 2 or 3 years ago, except that I once in a while realized that if I had a slightly moist brush, it was a little bit easier to do highlights from time to time, but it also smeared. If I do dry brushing, but actually by mistake had a slightly wet brush, then it would sort of smear out the paint in a way that I didn't really like, but it did sometimes just give a nice effect on the highlights. See if I can just gently clean this up. So I'll get you a message in just a second, Crystal. I just need to fix my mistakes here. Now for this, I'm actually not using the same wash as I've used for the rest of the model, and that's because I don't want it to be a full redoing of the shading and highlighting and all that. I just want to put in just a smidgen of shading here and there, and just probably need to fix the highlights again. But Modifian, I want to hear your babbles. This just needs my focus. Just a second more. So, I think that's probably just made it worse again. Anyway, and again about all this. Be careful when you actually start to clean up your model and fix past mistakes, because sometimes it's just not worth it. So anyway, that gave it a little bit of shading back on that side. Do we need anything on the other? No, we're good. So, but again, that's the stuff that made me so sad and that I've just resigned myself to, is how the people that show up to Forbidden Lands just show up to sessions, and it seems like they just didn't think a single second between sessions about the game or what they wanted to do. People don't seem prepared, and it made it seem like they didn't care, and it really made me sad. Disappointing. I was so excited when it started, but the excitement died down fast as week after week went by like that. And yes, AJ, interaction on stream, that is true. Oh, thank you. I'm beginning to accept that I just have the voice that I have and the accent that I have. But to address you, Modifian, it should be said that Forbidden Lands and one of the people in that group is me. And yes, I am a little, well, very guilty of not always being prepared. But a lot of it, that group is currently on a break for, well, because our game master, one of the players, is having a baby basically any day now. But that group was really strange because when we first started, it was in person, I think. Oh, thank you, Crystal. I think you try a little bit as well, but lately, I mean, we had the whole discussion, and it's just, I need to figure out where to start with all of this. Maybe explain a little bit about the game system and the group and how we play, because I think it's a combination of many things. The game is, oh, you're too sweet, Crystal. No, but the game is called Forbidden Lands, and it is from the Free League, which is a small independent Swedish, I believe, game company who makes these systems and settings that go together. And that is cool. I mean, it's great that people are doing this and trying to make a world and a rule system that fits that world completely. So we tried starting it up just about a year ago, but that was when I had to go on sick leave because of stress and I was out for 3 or 4 months before coming back at a reduced time at work, and then the corona hit on top of everything. So the main part of the group has been us playing over webcams, and that is a little tricky, but it can be done. So if people are sitting out there wanting to play more role-playing games, I think you can definitely do it. And yes, Adrian Fonseca's music is absolutely wonderful. I cannot recommend him enough, especially because he lets you use it for free as long as you give him credit. So I've done it in the description, and I will probably mention it a few more times on stream. Go check out his music. When I get around to it, I'd love to throw some money after him. I know he has a Patreon page that might just be the way to go for now. But anyway, back to Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands is it the... I'm from Denmark, Fafo. And you? Where are you from? No, but Forbidden Lands is... As a system, I have to be honest, I actually dislike it. From Chile. Chile? How do you pronounce that? I'm probably wrong. But welcome. Glad to have you aboard. Now we have even more spread out. But Forbidden Lands. I digress a lot, Fafo, just to warn you. I tend to digress a lot, and I also forget that I'm supposed to be painting. So we need to do a little bit, some light highlights here. So Forbidden Lands, there are a lot of things about that system that I don't dislike, as I said, as a system. But there are also things that I do like about it, like the world. But one of the problems I have, and we discussed this, Crystal, you know that I did a lot of complaining about that at some point, because I wanted to address some issues regarding a lot of the system. And for me, that means that it has been pretty difficult to keep up playing and keeping excited on this. Because there are some things about how you roll for to hit rolls and things like that. There's the progression system is incredibly slow. The things you buy, like your skill improvements and all that, it gets more and more expensive, as it should be. But at the same time, the stuff you get experience points for, you use experience points to buy new skills. That's the short version. So it's different from D&D, where you gain a level and then you get your stuff. So if you want to buy a skill from level 2 to level 3, it costs 15 points because it's 5 times the level you want to increase it to. But if the number of experience points you can expect to get from a game session does not increase over time, then it just gets slower and slower, and you basically quickly grind to a halt, progression-wise. And one of the reasons I'm playing these games, Chilla, okay. one of the reasons I'm playing these games is actually to see my character evolve, both on the personal side, but very much also on the rules side, and as you're getting better at skills, getting new skills, doing more. And when I can see in a game like this that it's not gonna happen, then I get a little bit frustrated, because I don't really see a lot of reason for even trying, if you know what I mean. And it also doesn't help that the stuff you get experience points for is things like, did you travel to a new place on the map? I think that, to me, signified that this was what I tend to refer to as a board gamey role-playing game. I mean, it's not about who you talk to or what you did in the city, or if you met some interesting non-player characters, if you overcome obstacles. This is, did you kill a monster? Did you find treasure? Did you go to a new place on the map? So while exploration is a large part of role-playing games, and these, especially this setting, I just think it's a terrible way of giving experience points. Also because you only got the 1 XP no matter how many spaces you've been to during a game session. So let's say you had a really long game session where you go through half the map, you get 1 experience point. Let's say you have another one, a short one, where you just pop over to the neighboring field, you just get the same experience point. And I could not understand why they've done that. So I tried, taking my own advice and doing some communication and raising these issues, and well, got mixed feedback from both the game masters and the players and all that. But I got feedback, and no matter if we agreed or not, we kept playing. So obviously you can guess that we came to some kind of understanding and agreement. But the key again is communication. Can I do this without messing it up? So yeah, so I tried doing that, and I was really glad that we had the open talk about it, because it also means that we're a little bit more, our game master is more casual about giving out rewards, and that has, I think that helped a lot. But yeah, it's strange to see these groups and the dynamics of all of this. But at the same time, it's interesting because it's human nature, and human nature always fascinates me. For those who don't know, I'm an engineer by training, and a large part of me thinks that sort of the ultimate engineering challenge is how humans work, because it's so fascinating to see these effects at play. I mean, how do people react? I mean, I know that I have probably very high standards when it comes to role-playing games. Not with the other players, though I do so love playing with people like Modifian, who are good at actually digging into their character, and again, as I mentioned earlier, just living that character and being that character. I'm guessing if I know more actors, I would be able to draw some parallels to the way a good character actor in movies and series work, and how what methods they use. Oh yeah, Fafu, this part of this is in general, but specifically the rules things I mentioned and the XP parts. That was the Forbidden Lands system. Thank you for asking. And if you missed it, Forbidden Lands is from Free League, which is a Swedish independent company that do these settings-based game systems, I think. I've only tried the Forbidden Lands from them, so I can't talk much about it. But what I do like about it is that they've tried doing something different, which kind of works. But at the same time, Modifian, as you said, you kept playing because I'm there, and I that warms my old heart. But at the same time, I'm also playing there because This is a group of really good friends, and to me that's more important than the actual game. And our game master openly just said that he had chosen this one for us because that is what he can do without having to spend, well, now it's a little bit too much, without having to spend a lot of time preparing stuff. And he's very pressed for time at the moment. He and his wife are expecting a baby. Well, they've gone over time, so basically any day now. I spoke to them earlier today, and they're doing fine, but they really want the baby out now. I can totally understand that. But yeah, so that's a really good reason for choosing the system, is that I can't remember if he'd played it before or if he just figured it would be simple enough that he could do it. So yeah, yes, AJ, friends first. Don't get angry over a game. Don't ever do that. Trust me, I've done that way too much in the past. It's not worth it, not by a long shot. But he chose the system because that's what he could do with the time he had available. And that to me was very much the deciding factor in staying in the group and keep playing, because I would much rather play with good friends to the level they can handle preparation wise and so on, than joining a random quote unquote serious or more serious group simply because I feel that would be better, because it wouldn't be. It's the collaborative storytelling and doing that with people you know, for me, has always worked so much better than playing at conventions, for instance. So yeah, so that's one of my reasons for sticking in the group. Plus it's fun, and it's been really fun to. I think, Modifian, this is your first role-playing experience, isn't it? I think it's one of the other players as well, and then we're a few people who have role-played various games before. But on that note, Modifian, since this is now officially on a break, I've considered actually starting up a new group, partly because I will miss playing with you guys, but also because at the same time the two people, our game master and his wife, me and them are playing Gloomhaven once in a while. We had our last game probably for a long time earlier today, and that means that's two groups down, and the 5th edition group that I helped start up with Flame, who's also an IP regular. That group is also on hold for, I guess, at least 6 months. So I think I may be a little bit starved for role-playing games, and that's why I got in touch with my my original group, and that's where we came to the whole people had not signed up, and our game master got a little bit sort of offended by that, and that led to some conflicts, and that led to us not playing yesterday, and we'll be trying again in a few weeks, but still, I am definitely going to be starved role-playing wise for the next 6 months. So maybe I should just start up a 5e group again with you guys, Malifian. What were you saying? How are one-off sessions different than long-term in terms of character development? I focus heavily on getting into character and understanding my character. Yeah, you played with that when you were a kid. Cool. The other two have never have done. The other two, I mean, Shirisa's done role-playing games before, I'm pretty sure, and I have, and you played a little bit with your dad, and then there's only one left. So, but anyway, yeah, I think that's. What do you say? More highlighting? Are we done? I think we're done. But so yeah, so one-off sessions. But one-off sessions They can be done in many different ways. The ones I've tried and at least enjoyed the most were the ones where you show up basically unprepared, and you're given a character that fits the scenario, either prepared by the game master or at a convention, written by a module writer for the convention, and then played by the game master. Oh well, maybe it was the first. I don't know. But basically, that's the usual type I've played. So you are handed a character, complete with background story and all that. A little bit like on the IP podcast with the NPCs, the guest NPCs that show up. You get the background, you get your place. You may get a few specific events you need to deal with, to respond to in certain ways, stuff like that. I've written one convention scenario way back in the day, back in '97 I think it was, which was kind of fun. But for that, you basically just show up and you play that character for however many hours it takes. Usually, just as I say, it's a one-off session, so only one session, and then you don't play it again. So there's effectively no character progression or development in the same way you have in a regular group, where people will be playing the same character session after session, sometimes for years. So one-off sessions are more about a specific theme or a specific concept that the author of the scenario wants to explore, or wants the players to explore as well. In my case, the only scenario I've written got some okay. We didn't have reviews, and there was no formal review session. But some of the other people who read it have said that it was an okay scenario. It wasn't bad. So that at least is good. That's enough for me to be pleased with it. But that was basically this group of characters traveling on a stagecoach through the old world, which is the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing system. And there they had, the different. There was the young noble out on his trip. There was a fancy lady. There was a Kislevit, I think somewhat Russian rough bodyguard. There was, I can't even remember all the different ones. There was the very meek servant girl. The very meek servant girl was very meek because she knew that the fancy lady who was traveling in the stagecoach was in fact a vampire. But unlike most other vampires, she was actually pretty benevolent. She did not take unwilling snacks, or whatever she called it. And then the entire scenario was built around the player characters learning that they were traveling with a vampire. They had a few stays at an inn, some weird things happened, and one of the players was, of course, not the vampire. The game master controlled the vampire, but the servant girl, who was sworn to silence on some pretty hefty threats that the vampire had no intention of ever actually doing to the poor girl, but the vampire just wanted to be left alone and enjoy her life. She was 16 when she was turned, and she has no evil in her heart. So yeah, so that was kind of fun to do that and then explore that as a concept. But now moving on to long-term games after that, of course you could take the characters and keep playing, but at the same time they've kind of served their purpose. They had the one of the setups was obviously that the young noble should try and start something with the pretty fancy lady, a complete stereotypical late 90s crap. So yeah, but it was fun exposing people to that, to see how it would go. So anyway, people are writing in chat. So what are you saying? One of the good things about one-shots is that you are much less worried about character death. It can be kind of freeing, exactly. And death has never been much of a deterrent for me. Sometimes it's a rush. Yes, but Crystal, you play a wolf buff-kin, fighterish type of character who is so buff compared to the rest of the party that you'll be able to basically eat us for lunch. Don't eat us. Yeah, but permanency. Oh, well, permanency and character death. That depends on the system, AJ, because rumor has it that D&D has certain effects that let you return from the dead. Not just as a revenant or something similar as we've seen, but also just in the form of what's called revivify. Isn't that the spell, whatever? So yeah, so you can actually return from the dead. Other systems are a little more harsh. If you're dead, you're dead, and there's no coming back. So yeah. Oh yeah, you didn't want Bryn to die, but again, things happen. So yeah, maybe we should explore character death for a while, because as a long-time game master, I have some things to say about that. First of all, as a game master, you should never not kill a character if the character, quote-unquote, deserves to die. And it's not that you should be angry at the character, it's not that you should be angry at the player. For heaven's sake, don't ever kill off a character because you don't like the player. That is personal punishment, whatever. That's really not cool. I've seen that happen, and I've seen how destructive it can be. Again, you're playing with your friends, for frick's sake. So, but anyway, enough. That's a different rant. But my guidelines for player death is that players, not your players, please don't die, but characters, they can die, generally speaking, if the encounter is important enough that they should be able to die. Or they can die if they do something insanely stupid like jumping off a cliff. AJ. Then you die. When people take poor choices for their characters, it will have consequences. There's no stuff like, oh, so you willingly jump off this cliff. Well, by some strange coincidence, there was this random branch that saved you from plummeting to your doom. No, if you jump off a cliff, you're just gonna die. You can have feather fall or stuff like that to prevent it, but then it's just not the same kind of jumping off a cliff, if you know what I mean. So yeah, but that's one thing. The other thing is, as I said, if the encounter, the battle, the fight, the effect, whatever, is important enough, and then we're talking end of level monsters, the big boss, the evil necromancer that the players have finally tracked down and invaded his lair and slain all the skeletons on the way in, and then they have this huge epic fight. Well, then players may actually die. It's not my main purpose as a game master to kill players, but we stopped doing the whole player versus game master thing a long time ago. So yeah, so we don't usually do that in the groups I play in, because it's not fun. Well, yes, it was a very fun story when the high-level assassin in the Warhammer world was accidentally shot. Well, not accidentally, but they watched I think it was a goblin scout on a wolf at long distance, blah, 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 and so on. And this goblin just took a pot shot with a short bow, and the game master rolled a few lucky rolls, and then one of the characters died. Yeah, okay, so it's a funny story to tell about, they've just been joking about it not being a goblin, but just, a snotling on a dog, blah, 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 and then, pew, you're dead. But having that kind of death for your character, that's just, all in all, it's not really that fun, at least not to me, especially as a game master, because it just seems, well, it is random, and that's how it seems. It's not part of the large plot. It's just sort of, you fell over on your way out of bed, and unfortunately I rolled high and your damage dice dropping the 30 centimeters to the floor, so now you're dead. Not cool. So, oh, I'm behind on chat. Oh, Crystal, your dad played in the Navy and talked about one DM that would take your character sheet and rip it up immediately upon death. Where's the fun in... Well, okay, I can see where the fun in that is. But at the same time, having your old character sheets lying around as mementos, as your Hall of Fame. Oh man, that is brutal. That is very brutal. And Fafo, yeah, I don't know if it has this distinct Braveheart style inspiration. I can't actually hear the music myself because then the microphone would pick it up. But I would not be surprised because a lot of his music is sort of fantasy, epic, has this feel to it. I also use it often to just when we were playing role-playing games as background music. So, and AJ, oh, are you playing Star Citizen, AJ? It's my accent. Now, well, AJ, if you want, I mean, can you remember? I think it was when Em and John were playing Kingdom Death Monster, and I got this silly idea of just playing commentator in chat. We could do that at some point. Just give me a mic, and I'll comment on how you're playing in Star Citizen. I just keep a lookout on your screen, your monitor if you stream it to me, and just go. Oh, now here we see the Star Citizen pilot in its natural habitat. That is the cockpit of a spaceship. Now, currently we have AJ flying around in a small... Oh no, she's not flying around. She just blew up. How sad. But these things happen. You know, I don't know, do something like that. That would be... I think that might be fun. And it's just... Look a little bit, I think. I actually did a far better job on the highlights than I usually do on these miniatures. And part of me wants to do even brighter highlights, at least on the top here, but I'm also at the same time very afraid of doing it because as I said, I'm not, yeah. Okay, the Streamlabs bot. I still have not found out how to disable all cap or disable the modification. Crystal, I have a bot telling me that it would have liked to modify you, but it actually went through. But you're going to find your ship. Yeah, well, they came through in all caps, and then it came through in not all caps. And I got a notification that it wanted to modify you, but it's not currently a mod, so it couldn't. But I don't really care. I really just want to turn off the modification altogether. I can always turn it back on if it should ever become a problem. But I mean, you people, yeah. So, oh, you're going rock mining. Yeah, for those who don't know, Star Citizen is a space game that has been in alpha for a long time. Yo, Crystal, I trust you completely. I trust you completely to be rude, obnoxious, fun, wonderful, and, well, one of my best friends. But, yeah. See, that is why I don't want to do more highlights. So why am I doing it? It's because I'm silly. It's also because I actually do want to highlight this front down here. So, and then we have the underside of the dog. That does not deserve to get highlighted today. So anyway, yeah, for Star Citizen, it is actually a really, really beautiful game. It has so nice visuals. It's one of the reasons I started playing it this summer. Got a new computer because I started playing it. That was a little unexpected, but hey, what are you gonna do? You start playing a new game. It looks absolutely stunning, but you only get about 1 frame per second. You buy a new computer, obviously. What else? What else would you do? I mean, that's perfectly normal, right? I should make you a mod. Oh, it's in your... Well, can't argue with that. So... Oh, there you go. Bolivian, you are now a mod. I have no idea what that actually will give you of powers, but I am sure you will find a way to have fun doing it. Well, yeah, cool. You got a nice little icon next to you. That's cool. So anyway, highlighting done there, highlighting done on the other one. Then I think it's time to try out. Oh shit! Done a really. Now see, this is what I was afraid would happen. If you can see here, I'm trying to catch it on camera. Right here, we have my dry brushing gone all wrong and actually hitting the translucent part of the miniature. Oh dear. Crystal, you are a modifier. Whatever will you do? So, while I try to correct my mistakes here, I will redirect attention completely by mentioning to maybe Favel, but also Modifian, anyone else watching, that some of the people here have a really, really cool and awesome podcast where they record their Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition games and then they edit it really well, I have to say, and publish it so you can follow along on their adventures. They are called the Incorrigible Party, and they are definitely incorrigible. If you cannot argue that. But they also really good entertainment, crystal clear sound, which is important for these things. They play in a fantastic homebrew world made by the game master Leland, and two of them, including AJ, have never tried role-playing games before at all, if I understand correctly. So this is their first experience as well. And seeing you guys grow as players throughout the first chapter has been so amazing, so much fun to watch. Listen to. And what they're also doing, which I think is perfect for this kind of setting. I mean, normal role-playing parties might actually do so as well. But you're doing the after parties where you, every 3 episodes, you make an after party where you discuss what has happened. Where did that white come from? I have not painted white on this miniature, so why is the white on this down here? Anyway, no, but it's just, of course I'll give you a shout out. I will do that as often as I can because, as I've also said to other people, the Incorrigible Party podcast, please put a link in chat so other people can see it. I'm a little busy now. It actually was so entertaining that I decided to drop 3 streaming services, including Netflix, because I preferred actually just listening to your podcast while catching up. And so yeah, for me that was a huge life improvement, because before that I was usually spend way too much time in the menu system of Netflix. Yeah, that's the link. And far too little time actually watching anything. So this was what pushed me to actually stop my membership or subscription, and I have not missed it one bit. Also, remember to drink. Always remember to hydrate whatever you're doing. You don't want to go low on fluid intake. So yeah. So should I do the mouth first? I think I should, and I think I should do something about the inside of the mouth to give it a different color. And for some reason I'm heading along the lines of a sort of dark purple, slightly brownish color, or maybe since I actually found out I have this. I'm playing around last week with some new colors and actually found a red that is really cool. Yeah, and Crystal, go listen on and do yourself a favor, Crystal. Go all the way back to character creation and all those things. The very first ones, the first episodes where they talk about first the world and the basics of that, and then their ideas behind the characters. Since you're also new into role playing, I think you'll find it really interesting to hear other people's stuff. And yes, AJ, you were a noob, and some people might say you still are because you've only played for a year and a half. But at the same time, in that year and a half, you have what, session 111 coming out. It came out today, and but the sound was actually good in the beginning, and it got even better later on. So no, but I'm actually thinking for the Blink dogs, going with this red here and giving it a brownish shade. So we still keep it in the brown tones. I mean, these are dogs, these are hunting dogs. But yeah. And yes, Emily, the noobs have learned. They really have. I think it's been cool to watch all of it, and especially the way you've handled the different things that show up. Like you mentioned with Bryn before, Elena. That must not have been fun for you as a new player. It's never fun. This is where I'm considering saying something along the lines of, oh, you'll always remember your first character's death. But to be honest, I can't even remember my first character. It's been that long. So, let us do something about the mouth of these ones here. I think this one should just... Actually, I think I just need to do the teeth on this one, and it'll just have a dark mouth. For this one here, yeah, he's got an open mouth. We can work with that. See him at all? Yeah, a little bit there. So yeah, we'll do the teeth later. We'll start here, and we will take, because we don't want to go all the way out to white. I don't think the red can probably cover the brown that's already there. Maybe it can actually, because it's the new one from Scale Color. I've never tried that brand before, and then I talked to the people at my local shop about how it is, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, Murifian writes that she's surprised that her ranger character hasn't died. You're playing You're playing him as a tank in a group with 2 mages and a bard. How is he not dead yet? I am baffled. Well, part of that is because we actually do have a game master that wants to keep us alive. He's understood a very important thing that's, for me at least, for game masters. And I've realized this a long time ago, but the first time and the best time I've heard it explained was in... hang on, I'm looking through colors over here. The best way I've heard it explained was in... what's it called? Vincent Barker? No, it's not that. That's someone else. No, the guy who did Apocalypse World. I can't remember his name at the moment. He's written a little bit about his game mastering style and his tips for game masters. And what he says is that as a game master, you should be the player character's biggest fan. If you're not a big fan of the players, then you're gonna kill them, or whatever. I mean, the game master should be a fan of the player characters, and I think that sums it up so well. Because I've seen this whole, and that's where we started, me and some friends way back in the late 80s, playing the old Dungeons and Dragons with the red and the blue box sets and all that. And Well, actually, Leland is actually doing a great job of keeping you guys alive through all the mess you've made so far. So hats off to Leland. No, but being the biggest fan also means that you want the players to succeed in what they're doing, or the player characters to succeed in what they're doing. And that's important because that's how you tell the good stories. Trust the DM, the stuff you haven't heard. No, I've not heard the last 2 episodes, so I am far behind. Not as good coverage as I had hoped, but a few coats of this probably do quite nicely. Also, I know the camera doesn't really pick up on all of this. I should probably hold it all the way up here for you to see. The problem is then I can't see the miniature because I'm currently using something I bought a few weeks ago but haven't really used that much. I bought my desk lamp here, which has a magnifying glass in it and then a ring light around the magnifying glass, and it is so wonderful to use. My old eyes really like that. I mean, I shake quite a bit on my hands regularly, but no, pressing my hands together gets rid of some of the trembles, but actually being able to watch in detail where the tip of the pen is means that I can actually at least coordinate. A friend, I think it was Blaine, who said I can coordinate my tremors, so I move the brush forward at just the right time because I can see when it will actually hit the part where I want it to hit. That's a huge improvement. I would not have been able to do this as precisely before, which is why I'm now beating myself over the head with why didn't I get one of these a few years ago. Oh, John had one and it broke. I am sorry to hear that, but the good news is that as much as it's annoying when things break, they are only things, and these particular lamps, at least the ones I had, it's not a cheap lamp like some of the IKEA lamps I have for my desk lamp and so on my other desk, but they are affordable, so it can be replaced. That at least is something. This actually really lets me work in detail with this. Of course, if I pull back a little bit, I will see double because that's what magnifying glasses do. But yeah, and this, even just doing that breaks the coloring. And we digress a little bit again from talking about role-playing games to talking a little bit more about, or again about painting in general. Because what I try to do with, for instance, these blink dogs, it's not going to have a bazillion colors. It's not a chameleon. It is not a parrot with 1,000 colors. It is a brown dog. So how do you make it look like something that is not a brown dog? Well, one option is to just paint the tongue. Just give the tongue a little bit of red. And if I pull up so you have the white background, does that even help? It doesn't. You can see now it is a lot of brown and then just a little bit of red that breaks that pattern. I mean the highlight and shading does a little bit of that as well. But this color, when I'm looking at it up close here, I think I'll just leave it. No, with the roof of the mouth, of course, also needs a little bit of. No, it shouldn't actually be red. That should just be really dark to highlight that. How can I do it? I can do that. Maybe with this. That's going to give a. It's going to be too green. I need something dark brown. Well, to give you a little bit of an idea about what we're doing here, we are looking at my paints and trying to see. Yeah, of course, I have the autofocus off, but gives you an impression. So when I'm all of a sudden going a little bit quiet and going, I need to think. And it's because I'm looking over all the paints that I have and trying to find a suitable color. So, are we back in Yeah, I think we're back in focus here. So, okay, so dark brown. Well, we're just gonna have to do that ourselves, I guess. I don't know, there's the contrast colors that I want to do. Oh, here we go. Well, AJ, have you actually gotten started on miniature painting yet? Or is it just wishful thinking? Or are you way too busy mining rocks in Star Citizen? Two-headed guy, isn't that usually ogres? Two heads, ogre magi or whatever. Guess it depends a little bit on the specific system you're in. And Etten. Yeah, right. Ettins, wonderful creatures. Well, so large you have to call them wonderful creatures, otherwise they'll beat you and that hurts. So what we're doing here is we basically, without worrying too much about the specific coloring, I'm basically just trying to darken the roof of the mouth, because it will mean that it sort of, I like to think of it as it sucks in the light. So that will mean that the rest of the brown stands out more clearly, and especially the red part of the tongue will stand out more clearly. And if we get just a little bit more, I would be really happy. Because then we go... No, wait, that's way too much paint. That's another thing about the magnifying glass. I can so much better see than see exactly how much paint I have left in the brush. And there we go. Just darkening it just a smidgen. Just a bit. Just a little tiny bit. I'm gonna go off frame just for a second here. Because here we almost are. Yeah, because what you have here is that since the roof of the mouth is pointing downwards, away from whatever sun is illuminating this, lighting up this miniature, then it should basically just be along the same lines, color-wise, so some kind of dark brown, but it just needs to be dark. Because then when you're looking at it, like this, you can't really see the roof of the mouth anyway, but it's dark. And because it's dark, it doesn't pop, it doesn't show up. So you still have the red, and you have the rest of the mouth being dark, and then you have the actual outside of the dark being a lighter brown, and to me that actually means that it works color-wise and light-wise. Now, what to do about the eyes? Because on its right eye here, we can see here, I can actually see where to dot in the eye, but over here on its left side, I find it a little bit difficult to see where the eye is, and as I've said on many occasions, it's my experience that it is far better to not dot in the eye than do a poor job of dotting in the eye. Because then you, at best, you'll get the googly eye syndrome, where the eyes will go, a big white circle with a black dot in the middle pointing in random directions. And if you look at people's eyes, they are never completely round, not even if they really widen their eyes and look surprised. And you don't actually have a black dot, you have the iris with the coloring, and then you have the pupil, which is black. And trying to do that on a miniature can be pretty daunting. And since we're doing blink dogs, which are fake creatures, monsters, I'm guessing that we don't even have to do realistic eyes, like having an iris. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat as always, because cheating gets the job done quicker. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to lighten it a little bit, and then I think I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of yellow, because I want to stay in the same direction as the brown. And yeah, let's go for that. So for lightening it, I will actually not go to white. But what I will do is I will take this one here. We have a Citadel color. It's one of the base colors. It's called Wraithbone. It's one of the two colors they use. We have the other one here. Gracie and Wraithbone are the base colors they suggest for their contrast paints. They've made some pretty good spray cans that are slightly finer in the pigment and cover really well. Also expensive. And they've made those specifically for use with the contrast colors, but of course you can use them for anything because they're colors, so go figure. But we're going to do a little bit of glass media in that. But what I like about them is that the Wraithbone color and the Gracie color, they recommend them respectively for warm colors and for cold colors. So if you're doing red, use a Wraithbone. If you're using blue, do the Gracie. At least if you want to stick to those colors, sort of natural, what's it called, warmth, I guess. Of course, there's nothing stopping you, as always, there's nothing stopping you from mixing this, or just using white or black paint as primer, or whatever you want to do. Black may be a little bit difficult with the contrast paints because they don't cover that well, but you can do all of that and knock yourself out. But instead of just going white for the eye, I really want to do something that is not white. I also want to close this one, otherwise I'm gonna knock it over in a few seconds. And while that will be fun, it will probably spill off camera, so you don't even get entertainment out of it. So there we go. So now with the warm colors, and for this one, if I go all the way to the white, we're still going into the cold color territory. And since I want to do yellow eyes on this little puppy, I really don't want to have a white underneath because it's going to be very, very light. 30k while harvesting 8 Hadanite rocks. For those not playing Star Citizen, I will tell you that this basically sucks big time. And that is what you get for playing a game that is in alpha and has been in alpha for many, many years. So let us see what I do. Oh man, the magnifying glass is wonderful for this. There you go. That is an off-white for the eye. Oh man, I really want to... Let me just try this and see if I can... Now, when using thin brushes like this, the paint will often dry up. Yeah, you spam caps, but I have not given the Streamlabs bot mod privileges. So spam away as much as you like. You're in good company. You're with people who can actually deal with people talking in caps. We will not hate you for it. We will not ban you. We will not... Yeah, we may laugh a little bit. Oh, I need to find a different camera setup for all this. But I will try just gently. There you go. Wait, I think that actually worked. Cool. Let's do the other one as well. I should also do the teeth while I'm at it. Oh wait, AJ, if I give you mods, can't you just sort of block your or moderate yourself when you're spamming in caps? I think that would probably just be easier, wouldn't it? You need to emote. Yeah, but Crystal, there is an option somewhere that I did see at some point where you can that's gonna work fine because I'm with the eyes here. No, but I did see the option somewhere. I just haven't found it. And again, what I'm doing here, hopefully, is to not make the small white dots too big, because I don't want the eyes to be huge and risk the googly eye syndrome. I just want them to be a small, differently colored place. You know what, that is a good idea. Who am I missing here? Not Streamlabs. I think that's everyone. So, X up in chat if you did not get a mod, and I will give you one. So, where was I? I was talking about the small eyes and not overdoing the eyes. To give you an example of two sets of eyes. Again, we're talking monsters. We're not talking human eyes here. Neither humanizing monsters nor doing humans. But this one here, which is the crack heart from Gloomhaven, if you can see it, I have some really dark shading on the eye sockets, and then just a very small, slightly off-white dot on top of it. And to me, at least, that looks really cool. I mean, just looking at the face, I can see the eye. They're gonna pop a little bit. Yeah, but I actually don't think you're gonna keep the mods afterwards, because when I did that last time with Streamlabs, apparently it has not retained its mod privileges. And yeah, John is gonna be surprised. Yeah. So if you look at this little guy here, the Mind Thief, again from Gloomhaven, you can see then they've used the sort of really shiny blue eyes because I don't know. I just did. But I think it works again because it breaks the monotony of the coloring of the face. And even though it would look really cool if I could paint in the iris and the pupil and all that, I think this works, especially when you see it from a distance. These miniatures are meant for tabletop gaming. They're not meant as display pieces. They're not entries into any kind of award show. They're meant to be, thank you, I like the blue as well. They're meant to be visible, they're meant to be vivid, and they're meant to be so much more enjoyable than the grey plastic that comes with the game. So for that, I like that kind of eyes on things that are not human. Because things that are not human gives me at least a little bit more leeway. So yeah. So anyway, I need a little bit more paint on my palette over here. So let's just grab that. Now, regarding paint, just random side note. Last summer, I tried to teach one of my friends to paint. And she got really good at it, no thanks to me. But the first time we were going to paint, she was very, very sort of, oh, but I want to pay you for the paint I use, and you shouldn't have any expenses doing this and all that. And I just went, look, you're going to be using less than a drop of paint. It's going to be so little that it doesn't really matter. And she was really insistent on it. And she didn't want me to have any expenses and all that. It's very sweet of her, but also at the same time, if you look at the size of these pots and then take a look at how little you actually use, and then take a look at, for instance, my palette that I've completely made a mess of, trying to mix the brown for the highlighting. There's a lot more brown on the palette than there actually is now on the miniatures, which means that the largest part of my paint actually goes on my palette and is eventually thrown out at some point. So the whole concept of I borrowed your paint and painted half a miniature, what do I owe you? Doesn't make sense. I mean, at least not to me. That was a sidetrack. So let's see if we can do roughly the same with the teeth. And just gently. Where are your teeth, little dog? Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna go a little bit off screen here. Just very gently dotting in the teeth. Then I'll give them a quick shade of glaze. You can see here. Now it's grinning. You can see the teeth. Just a little bit as well. Go and continue. Well, this is going quite well. So a magnifying glass and a small brush and keeping your hands together is a good combination. Actually, I watched Flame, or Brett, as some of you know her, sent me a link to a video about a guy with Parkinson who's painting miniatures. And he talked about, in this video, he talked about how he actually went about that when shaking as much as he did. And one of the advices he gave that didn't work for him, but might work for me since I have a different kind of tremor than he does, it was to actually take a rubber band, one of the large ones, and just wrap it around in a figure eight about your two smallest digits or fingers, and then down to your wrist. So your fingers are kept in your hand like this, because what happens apparently for some people is that these two fingers will shake and make the rest of the fingers shake as well. For him it didn't work because for him it was his wrists shaking. So the rubber band did nothing. But what he did, which is I think might also be a good idea for anyone basically, was that he put a large brick down on his paint area, and then he placed his wrists on that. Because the brick is heavy and it doesn't slide on his table, and he can rest his hand on that, and they're kept in place by the weight of the hands down on the brick. Guessing that's what happened. Again, when painting, it's a really good idea. I can't do it because of the way the camera stands here, but if you press your palms together, you're gonna get a far more steady grip on the miniature, and you're gonna sort of synchronize your tremors a bit more. But again, the little doggy now has teeth. It needs a little bit more work over here, so a little bit of water on the brush, a little bit of paint on the brush. Now when thinning paints, as I'm doing here, I'm actually thinning them fairly much, making them fairly thin. I use a combination of just distilled water and various kinds of mediums. Mediums are something very, very technical about how paints are made, but it differs from water in the sense that it kind of binds the pigments and does magic stuff to it, I guess. It's a little bit much, but it's gonna get some paint. But anyway, that went far better than I had feared. So when I started out in the 90s painting, Doggy says grrr. Yes, Angry doggy. So, when I started out in the 90s, as I said in the beginning, I didn't thin my paint. I just used them straight from the pot. And you can do that. People still do it with great results. But thinning them means that you get obviously a much thinner layer, but that also means that you preserve. Now, this